Well, I think it's calling out sort of injustice and equity. It's calling out for a conversation, and it's saying that we need to stand up and not be silent about a society and a system that perpetuates racial injustice. Um, it's really important, I think, to recognize this isn't just a US issue. I think a lot of the people I work with, a lot of people I know really feel that this is something over there, and why are we talking about it over here? The experiences in the US may be different, but there are very strong parallels with what people experience here. And I think this is an opportunity to shine a light on those issues.
It's basically saying people like myself or people of color, their lives are also important. Like, you don't have to look at somebody as different. They have a right as human. We are all human. It doesn't matter whether your color is brown or black, as it's referred to, or any. In the UK, we have BAME, which puts a lot of people in that bracket, but it's mostly the lists on the person who is below is the black person who is seen as not important. And again, it's from an American perspective. But in Kenya, years ago, there was a time, because of culture, men were stripping young women who wore short skirts that were, or dresses that were above the knee. If they showed their thighs, the dresses were ripped off in the street and they were beaten. Wow. And Kenya, they were saying, it's my choice, my dress, you can't dictate. And we're talking 21st century, where a man decide, one will so, others decide, no, you can't wear like that. But traditionally, we know before colonization in Africa, people were wearing skimpy, whatever it was, type of clothing. But after colonization, they were told, oh, you can't wear that. The Victorians were wearing all these long frocks, and they were told it's evil to show your body. Yeah. And they invented the bikinis after being to those countries. So, and people have been brainwashed to feel like we don't matter, and we do. Some of the inventors were people of my color and your color, people who have invented, but they've been left in history and not recognized. And there's the film I watched maybe 2 years ago, I don't know when it came, The Hidden Figures, were two women in NASA who were Black women who, if they hadn't been part of it, America would not have gone to space. But we have all this, everything that is considered. Now, whoever is supervising is the person behind it. And we all matter. Yeah. We all matter, but ours, the Black Lives Matters now, to stop the prejudice, to be recognized as human.
So it's kind of sad that we need to say it. It's sad that it needs to be stated, because it should be an obvious statement. But the fact that it needs to be said, and the fact that people respond badly to it, is also very distressing, because it takes me back to the 1960s during the civil rights movement in America, where there was people walked around. There's a famous photograph of a man walking, and he has in his hand a banner which says, "I am a man." And that stems from this idea that the sort of humanity of Black people was questioned in America, because they were at one point slaves and were legally less than human. And so to stand up and declare yourself a man, it seems strange today, but we look at that sign that he's holding, And it kind of moved me to tears, really, to think that that had to be stated. And in the same way, I feel that Black Lives Matter, maybe in 50 years, we're going to look back and say, why did that need to be said? Why did that need to be a statement? But the fact is, it needs to be a statement because the lives of Black people are being, they seem to be being taken at a much faster rate in America anyway, and in Britain we don't have police walking around with loaded guns, or there are some, but it's not our culture here. So, but there is discrimination and there is police brutality here in the UK. It's not on the scale of America, but it's happening here. And I think all lives matter, but all lives can only matter when Black lives also matter.
I think in terms of like Black Lives Matter, I mean, every single life is important, but I think along the lines of like the Black Lives Matter, it's just that it's mainly Black people feel that we're like constantly, how can I put it? I think just like attacked, really. Like we're actually like the #1 targets, really. So yeah, it's just like we feel that we're actually like not really valued, like we don't really matter as such, really, just along those lines, really. So, and also like with not just necessarily with what happened in America, is just like a Black man being killed. It's also like in other ways, not just like honestly, I'm trying to get my thoughts together, but just along the lines of maybe in the workplace as well, probably. So just along those lines, like maybe some Black and ethnic minority people might not necessarily think that they're being valued or they don't have any worth as to their other like white counterparts along those lines, really. So it's like they're actually getting more opportunities to progress and move up, and the Black and ethnic minorities, they don't get as much recognition. So just along those lines, really.
Equality for all in one succinct sentence. The slogan itself is very powerful, and at face value, it seems divisive. It's as if it's a supremacist movement rather, which relates to the supremacy of people of color. But I think it really means equality for all.
Yeah. So it's saying, for me, it's saying that Black lives matter as much as everyone else's lives. Not saying that Black people's lives are more important than anyone else's. That's what it means to me. And just kind of appreciating that there is racism and that does impact on people's lives, and that does lead to inequality.
Yeah, so to me, Black Lives Matter is about basically putting Black people on an equal pedestal to everyone else. So I know obviously there's a lot in terms of all lives matter. When I see that, I get a little bit frustrated because of course all lives matter. We're not saying that all lives don't matter. What we're saying is that generally in society, and whether it's in the workplace or wherever it is, Black people are not equal. So to me, Black Lives Matter is actually shining almost a spotlight, saying, right, these people are disenfranchised the most, so we need to focus on them to bring them up to the same as everyone else. It's not putting them above anyone, it's bringing everyone onto the same level. And I saw a really good analogy when someone was like saying, it was a photo, and it was a guy on the floor and he'd hurt his knees, and he's like, ow, my knee hurts or something. And I think another picture, then another guy was saying, but what about my knees? And he was like standing and fine. It was, and I also read some things like, you wouldn't say if someone had a certain type of cancer, you wouldn't say, oh, well, you've got that type of cancer, don't all cancers matter? You wouldn't say that. So why is it applicable, and why is it that you say something when it comes to race? So that's kind of how I see Black Lives Matter and why what it means to me.
It's trying to say that all lives matter, But at this present moment in time, Black lives are under threat. So we're focusing on Black Lives Matter at this moment in time. Now, I believe that a lot of people misunderstand it, insofar as to say that they are saying Black lives matter more than other lives. But I just think it's the case that if you look at my fingers, these represent different lives: Black, white, Indian Asian, Asian, Hispanic, Mediterranean, Caucasian, Swedish, you name it. But it's saying that this particular life, the Black one, is the one which is lagging behind whilst all the others are in front. And this particular lives we need to bring up to speed because we all matter equally. And that's what I think Black Lives Matter. I do understand the argument where some people say all lives matter. But what they're trying to say is all lives matter, but at this present moment in time, Black lives are under threat.
Well, that terms, well, to be precise, Black Lives Matter, meaning that about time we start taking Black lives important and paying specific attention to issues around race and culture, not just in secular society, not just in church, but everywhere, so that we all can feel free to play our part in human race.
Well, Black Lives Matter, in general, people will say it means about all ethnic minorities or BAME communities, but it really referred to people of African origin. And I think that fails the other ethnic minority group who suffer from racial discrimination as well. And I think that's my only downside of it, because we all, people of color, suffer some form of discrimination at some time, bias or unbiased discrimination.
I think it means that, like, because Black lives are seen by some people as lesser than, like, as humans, it's saying that Black lives do matter, and it's not saying that any other lives don't matter. It's just saying that Black lives, like, also, yeah, that they also matter.
What they're saying is all lives won't matter until Black lives also matter, so that's why it's so important.
For me, it's obviously just highlighting the issue of race and how there tends to be a lot of people don't understand that there is a lot of racism still going on. And it's just highlighting the fact that we as a race matter, and we're just sort of trying to express our views and to say, look, we get overlooked a lot of the time, and we just want everybody to realise that we are here and we're shouting now because we're tired of not being heard. And unfortunately, with everything that happened in America, and obviously they feel it a lot stronger than we do, because I think racism here in this country is very underlining. It's covert, it's hidden. Some people, they're not outwardly as racist as they are in America. So the Black Lives Matter movement obviously meant a lot more in it than it did in the States, and then it kind of transpired over here. I still think that people really need to understand that racism here exists, and just because it's not in your face, and people aren't, turning us away from areas, it's still there, and we need to make people understand it. But yeah, Black Lives Matter is just a way of expressing to people that we need to be heard, It's about time. We've stayed quiet for a very long time and let things just go and just don't say anything, don't rock the boat. We don't really want to express this, and maybe it's just us, we're being sensitive, but it's getting to a point now where we need people to understand actually this is still going on.